Sigma's finally in game, and he's actually a lot of fun. And honestly, I think he might be my new tank main. Hey, what's going on, geeks? Maxusthebeast is here, and welcome back to an Overwatch commentary type video. Today we're going to be going over Sigma, the newest addition to the Overwatch cast, and why I personally really like him, and just, well, an overall overview of who he is, or rather, his character in game, his kit, his skills, and my personal thoughts on him. I mentioned him a little bit back in the video I talked about Hugh, which I'll talk about again here in a little bit. But Sigma has changed a bit since the PTR, so I think we should go over some of the changes. So first of all, we're going to talk about his kit, just like we did with the Baptiste video a while back. So his primary fire fires 2 orbs and a burst fire. There is no tap shooting with him, meaning you push left click or whatever your primary fire button is on your preferred controller, and you fire 2. There's no tap shooting. They're gonna shoot in one general direction at the same time. Now, the big thing that's different with Sigma's projectiles is the fact that they can bounce off of things. They can be angled around corners. If you know that there's an enemy right behind a doorway, you shoot that doorway, the orbs will bounce off of it and hit the person on the other side of it. It's definitely more intuitive than just, let's say, a burst fire, like Baptiste's weapon, for example. And each shot is incredibly powerful, especially close range. You see, Sigma excels at close range combat because his orbs are deadly up close, but they do have a set distance where they will explode. So, for instance, from this distance I'm at right here, if I were to shoot 2 orbs right now, I wouldn't hit anything. They'd explode in the air halfway to my target. But now that I got a little bit closer, I was able to hit what I wanted to because I closed in distance. They're definitely useful, and they are definitely powerful. There's no question that Sigma can do damage. And to help him with this, he has a utility that will allow him to stun his opposition. This is his E ability. You see, Sigma's E ability forces together a couple rocks, and he will hurl them at his opponent, which, if it hits, will do some severe knockback to him and will stun them for a good 1 or 2 seconds, giving you or your teammates the perfect opportunity to do some damage while they can't fight back. And it also does good damage in and of itself, so it's always nice to just throw this in there in between your burst of orbs. It's a useful ability, and can also be used for some environmental kills as well. Now, this thing, while it technically is a projectile, is immune to several things. 1, D.Va cannot block it. The defense matrix cannot delete it. It's invulnerable to it, meaning it will continuously travel through the defense matrix and will hit D.Va regardless if she has her matrix up or not. This is one of the few abilities that we've seen out of recent heroes that cannot be blocked by D.Va. Because, you know, Moira's, her own orbs can be eaten up by D.Va's defense matrix no matter when it was first deployed. The rock attack cannot. However, regular barriers, being either Brigitte, Reinhardt, Orisa, or another Sigma, those will be able to block the rock attack and stop it dead in its tracks. Speaking of barriers, one of Sigma's biggest assets are his portable barriers. Think of it sort of like Orisa, in the sense that you're going to have a barrier available all the time. Like, you deploy it, it might get broken, and you wait for it to recharge, and you throw it back out again. But unlike Orisa, Sigma can retract his barriers, Meaning if you put a barrier in a place that you don't like, you can always take it back and move it. Unlike his orbs, the barrier has no range limit for how far it can travel. You can literally send your barrier to space. And also, unlike Orissa's barriers, it can be angled. Meaning if there is a sniper above you, you can throw down a barrier angled to block that sniper so you and your teammate can cover ground without getting your heads taken off. It's a useful utility. However, it can be destroyed and will take time to recharge, and has its own separate health bar just like Reinhardt's shield, or Brigitte's. But it is incredibly useful, and it is definitely one of the better barrier abilities. Because honestly, when I heard that there was going to be another barrier, I was kind of worried that they were going to be rehashing another thing again. But it turned out to be a lot more useful than I thought it would be, and a lot better than Orissa's barriers, in my opinion. While the barriers could definitely take a beating, they're not the only thing Sigma has at his disposal to keep himself safe. His shift ability functions sort of like D.Va's defense matrix. It eats projectiles, it eats literally anything other than, of course, the rock attack. But what it does differently than the D.Va's defense matrix is that it grants Sigma temporary shields. When Sigma gets hit by a projectile while his shift ability is active, the shield will eat it, or the shift ability will eat it, and you see the orb that you're holding in your hand will grow. Once the set time for the ability is over, Sigma closes his hand, and depending on the size of the ball, that'll be how much shields he regains. This is incredibly useful, because if you're getting attacked from the front, you pop that ability, it's up, the abilities being flown at you are eaten up, and then you get shields back. So Sigma has a bit of survivability tools at his disposal. But he isn't invulnerable. If someone is behind him, even when he has a shift ability active, they can still shoot him from behind and do damage to him. He's not invulnerable entirely, which keeps him pretty balanced. Not to mention, he's not the toughest tank. If you focus him down, he can die pretty quickly. Meaning, while he is survivable, he can get himself out of pinches with either high enough damage to really take out whoever is attacking him, the barriers to defend himself, or his shift ability. He isn't like a roadhog. He can't just get shot by literally everybody and walk it off. He can die, and he will die if he's being focused. But we have a lot of survivability tools at our disposal, so death, while, like I said, if you are getting shot, you aren't a bullet sponge, you will die pretty quickly. I compare it to sort of like Zarya or D.Va, where you have a decent health pool, but if someone focuses you down, you're pretty screwed. But that's his kit. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention the most fun thing about Sigma. Sigma's ultimate ability takes ages to charge. But you know, when an ultimate takes a long time to charge, it's usually really good. And Sigma's is. When he hits Q, he starts to fly around. Once he selects a target on the ground, he will lift whatever is in that circle up in the air and slam it down. Now, he has a good 15 or 20 seconds or so of flight, which even if he doesn't decide to use the actual attack, he can still fly around, maneuver himself, and situate himself better because Sigma lacks maneuverability moves. He's slow, but in this mode he can fly around and get out of dodge and reposition himself easier than he would be without the ultimate active. However, it is an incredibly good utility ultimate as well as good damage ultimate. It lifts the opponent in the air for several seconds, meaning a teammate paying attention could focus whoever's floating around, do damage to it, and then when the Sigma slams them down, if the teammates haven't already taken care of them, then the downward slam will definitely finish the job. It's a pretty powerful and useful ultimate. I view it sort of like Reinhardt's, just longer and more useful. So, yeah, it sounds overpowered, but it's not. Again, unless every opponent is focused around one specific position, it's not going to grab everybody. And to players who are good at aiming, are good at hit scan, Sigma flying around shouldn't mean that much to them. They can still hit him. He can still take damage while flying around. Yeah, he can still shoot, but once he hits, uses his ultimate attack, lifts him up in the air, throws him back down, he can still shoot at them, but he loses the ability to use all of his other abilities. So, you can focus him down without worrying about him throwing a rock at you, or putting up a barrier, or eating your attack. It's situational. And it also benefits those who are paying attention on both sides. If your team's paying attention, notice that, oh, the Sigma has everybody lifted up in the air, focus down the enemy floating in the sky, and take them out. But if the enemies are paying attention, they can see that, oh, the Sigma's floating around, focus him down. Because he's basically an almost sitting duck. If the team is good enough to take him down. Sigma is powerful, but has a strange sense of chaotic balance to him. He's a powerhouse, but he's not overpowered, which makes him a really fun and good hero. And honestly, I consider my tank mains Reinhardt and Roadhog. I've been trying D.Va more, but now I think Sigma is my tank tank main. He's fun, he's powerful, and he's definitely a good asset to have on a team. He can get kills, he can take care of himself and survive, so he's not constantly spamming for heals. He can clear out opposition and still be a good team player as well, by putting up barriers, knocking back opposition, or using his ult to line up opponents. Sigma is incredibly useful, and I really like him. You know, when I made my video about Baptiste, I didn't really think that Baptiste, I liked him. I mentioned that I liked Baptiste a lot, but I didn't think that he really changed the game that much. Sigma, however, does. Sigma changes the balance or meta of Overwatch, because he's different. Baptiste, while the invulnerability field was something different and cool, it wasn't as influential as directional barriers. That might sound kind of lame, but it's actually a big deal. The power to change the direction of the barriers means that you can counter a lot of things. A Pharah flying above you gonna rain down justice? Not to worry, just throw up a barrier in their face and do some damage from Pharah hitting themselves pretty much, and then on top of that, negate the attack on your team. Sniper shooting at you? Throw up a barrier. They're gonna have to reposition because they can't get through it. It's a way to change things up, and it's going to be something that people are going to have to adjust to and are already adjusting to. And it means that people who play Sigma are going to have to be smart, and they're going to come up with pretty creative combos for his abilities and creative placements for his deployable barriers. It's going to change competitive Overwatch, because some strats aren't going to work anymore because Sigma can now block things. And it's also going to mean that there's going to be a new priority target. If the opponents have a Sigma, focus them down, you can take care of it. It's he's not overpowered, but he is powerful. Which is always nice to have a hero that is competent in pretty much every regard. Can take care of himself, can kill enemies, can be useful in more than one situation. And again, I'm not bashing on Baptiste here. He is still a good hero, and I've seen a lot more people using him recently. But I think that Baptiste was a safe character to throw in. It didn't change too much. Yeah, the invulnerability field is definitely something unique and cool, and his ultimate is something that could be considered game-changing. But none of it is really, oh my gosh, this has changed the meta forever. Because Baptiste, good hero, but a safe hero. Didn't throw things out of bounds, didn't try too much new. But Sigma threw logic and gravity out the window and decided, I'm just going to hurl everybody around with telekinesis, shoot exploding orbs of black holes at people, and eat literally everything they throw at me. But I can still die pretty quickly if people prioritize. Which people, well, hopefully will do. Because while I am going to be playing a lot of Sigma, playing against a Sigma who no one can take care of isn't fun. But people can. So, he's gone through several smaller changes, some minor tweaks. So he's definitely a lot more balanced now than he was when he was first thrown into live. And of course, he was a lot weirder as well in PTR, but now he's in a live branch that is being worked on. Now then, I mentioned earlier about role queue, and it's changed again. Right after Sigma was first put into the game, the Season 17 competitive series was just concluding. Or I think it was 16, but whichever season it was concluding. So they put competitive role queue in place. They threw role queue into a beta form in competitive and competitive only, and quick play continued to play the same. Quick play didn't have role queue, and I was lost. I honestly had gotten so used to playing role queue and quick play that when I was like, wait, it didn't change, I was honestly distraught. But in the most recent patch, role queue beta for competitive is over, and now it has been pushed to technical live for both competitive and quick play. So role queue is back, and it works the same way as it did when I made the video on it. So I just want to give a brief announcement that role queue worked differently for a while. It wasn't always in the quick play servers, but now it is, and everything's okay. Just wanted to give a brief mention of that. I was going to make a video right after Sigma first dropped, talking about a little bit about him, and then going into quick play not being in, quick play, role queue not being in quick play, and talk about how distraught I was about that, but I held off, and I'm honestly glad I did, because they fixed it. They finished the competitive beta and moved role queue into live for both competitive and quick play. So glad I showed patience and didn't jump to conclusions that Blizzard wasn't adding role queue to quick play. They did. Just, again, thought I'd give a quick little background to that. And that's where I hand this over to you folks. What do you guys think about role queue? And Sigma, more importantly. Do you like him? Do you think he's not balanced? Do you think he's overpowered? Do you think he's boring? Is he not fun? Is he fun? What do you all think about Sigma? Just let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway guys, I also want to do a quick thing and say I'm sorry for the lack of content the last couple weeks. I have been increasingly busy with life. It's been a strange 2 weeks, but it's been a good one. Just had a lot of life stuff going on. But I'm back to making videos now. I'm trying to plan out Geekz Week. segment that's going to be, of course, when I make a decision, there will be an announcement video talking about that. Anyway, guys, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As always, Maxusthebeast is out.